if you want to share it and download it somewhere else later on. Okay. Righty-o, we ready?
Yep.
Woohoo. Here we go. And it'll just take us a second to share to news feed. Let's have a look.
I'll finish this off.
Okay, so it's going to share to news feed. Okay, so that's interesting because last week it just went share to Debbie Shee, Debbie J, but now it says share to news feed. So we just go to news. So we go to news feed.
Yep.
Let's just go there. Let's just jump straight in. Just waiting for that. Waiting. Who knows where it'll come up? Okie doke. Add title. What title do we want, guys?
Opening things up.
Yeah.
Activating yogis, opening things up.
Activating and opening.
Opening the illusion.
Opening to clarity.
Okay. Okie doke. It's got the blue line. The meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Okay, so we're live now, guys, so you can wave and say hi to everyone. We're just waiting for this to come up. Takes a couple of seconds, so welcome.
Lag.
Okay, so it's going to my Debbie Chain page again as it did last week, so that's all good. So, okay.
On here.
Literally watching me teach myself technology, people are watching. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Activated Yogis again. It's our third Friday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined by the lovely Jodie Randall, Zoe Annabelle and Rebecca Fish again. So it's the Chicks night tonight. A couple of the others can't join us this evening, but they will be here back in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to hold the fort tonight. Lots of things to talk about. It's been a bit of a crazy week, as I'm sure all of you are feeling as well. Lots of heaviness, lots of more psychic energy going on, lots of fatigue, lots of weather changes, moving from seasonal vibrations as well. We've all got our own personal stuff going on. There's been lots of reactivity. We've noticed it in our own little crews as well, of course, and in our family situations, which you can get to talk about tonight if you guys want to. And Mercury post shadow, which will come out, I think it's next Friday, it comes out completely. So we've got about another week of a few little sort of hiccups and hurdles, and hopefully not too up and down, but planing out a little bit and becoming a bit more undulating, so we can feel like we get ourselves back in that space of being the eye of the storm again, which is really important. Just a reminder to everyone that we're not here to tell yogis, teachers, students, the community what to do, what to think. That is totally up to your discernment whether you want to take on anything that we share here this evening. I'm also monitoring questions, so if you have questions for us, please type them in and we'll do our best to answer them. I'll just keep checking backwards and forwards. And to also know that we're all individuals here, and we're all mature and we're all adults, and what I might say or agree with or what my perspectives are not necessarily the same as everybody else in this group, and vice versa. So we're all our own unique expressions, and we're sharing our truths here, and it's all done with love and from the heart space. So opening up with that, how are we all, girls? Who wants to start and say how their week's been?
I'll go.
Zip, go Zoe. Everyone else, just mute yourselves so we don't get any background noise, because there might be a few.
So it's been definitely like going into the trenches, a real highs and lows, and what I feel is what's been coming through for me personally, and then other people that I've been tuning into. Whatever is really, really deep programmed into you has been coming up for review. It's like the old final fragments. Maybe it's not the final fragments, but it's the final fragments in this moment of this week of so yeah, it's been really interesting, really faced with adversity in my own life, talking really openly, and really looking at everything I've created, and then going through those moments of, well, no one's going to want it, and all that doubt and all that worthlessness and helplessness and hopelessness. And what I needed to do with that was unplug, get back to my normal practice, which is my daily practice, and really be diligent with that. Sleep a lot, rest a lot, go, oh, my body's upgrading right now. And then I'm like, oh, so then spending all day just lying there and then coming around, and then I'm walking around like a stoned hippie, walking around my community because I can't focus my eyes. And I'm like, there's nothing else I can do. What I'm feeling with the energy, it's not, you can't force it. So I was like, okay, I need to launch. And every time I would go, I'd go, so it's like, we can't push anything right now. The energy is all about allowing. It is really in that feminine, it is that. So I really feel we're being yielding into deeper levels of trust, really going into the heart, that trust of, so yeah, but in that, the intensity of the adversity of going, oh, and I'm going to say really openly, oh, I'm 3 weeks behind on my rent. That's like a massive 3D thing. And then in that, just going, okay, well, it's really not bad. I've got, some food. I've got all this amazing product. And then really looking at how I can then bring that so then other people can access it that are in that rough state, that don't have that money to invest. And that in itself of going, how can I serve even deeply and not dropping my value, actually, if anything, seeing as an infinite value. And it's this energy that's come through from that of getting out the way of what it should be or was. And in that point of complete adversity about, oh, well, it's really could be a lot worse, like I'm living, I'm breathing. And then this pure potency that comes through from that. And I feel that is what more and more people, it's like we ask for this. So
yeah,
by May, end of May, what I see is going to lighten up in a few days, like you're saying with the retrograde. And then we have 9 weeks where we have no planetary stuff going on, which is cool. And then the end of May, and other people have been saying this, we're going to look back on our life and we're not even going to recognize it. So I'm actually excited. I've been really open with my kids as well. I've said, you need to go to your dad's this weekend. I've said I'm going away, but I'm not. Because it's cheaper if you're there, and I don't want to have to say, well, you have to eat cereal. I don't want to get into that. And it's, well, to me, it's really not a big thing. It's not a big thing. It's breaking out of those old 3D programs and tuning in. And this is infinite. It's
beautiful. So thanks for sharing that, sweetheart. It's I think we can all relate in our own ways of, the panic. I wrote about and I spoke about this a few weeks ago. You guys might remember about the poverty consciousness within the collective that's coming up for healers, for yogis, for anyone who works energetically. And we're all feeling the pinch and it was worse last year, of course, because everybody just totally panicked and we were all in lockdown. It was the pandemic, etc. And everybody was counting pennies, literally, fair enough. So there is that, as you say, just going into it and feeling it. And I've had a bit of a couple of weeks like that as well. And it's just, for me, as you said so beautifully too, just to watch the tendency, the unconscious tendency within oneself to sell oneself short as well, either to drop your prices or start offering discounts and all that sort of stuff, which is a lovely thing to do. And it's a great thing to offer. And everybody, we're in service and we're here to help others as well, but we still need to put food on the table. And we still, as you say, have families and children to look after. And what we do and what we offer has a certain level of value. We've all got, not just us here tonight, but speaking to everybody out there, is that whatever you are, an expert or experienced in, whatever career you're choosing, you've spent years building that up, and you have, you're accredited or whatever, and you have something to offer people. So that's worth a certain amount of money, whatever that is to you. So it's it's riding the edge, isn't it? On like riding the edge in the yoga posture, not putting yourself back and not going and not feeling and just soldiering on, or pretending it's not happening, or pushing and shoving yourself through it and going into the panic or the anxiety or the usual replay of dialogue that you might have that for you might be self-sabotage, and then getting into depression and all those things, which is going to be exacerbated by the universal energy that's happening now as well. So I think it'd be hard pressed to find anybody out there that's not struggling financially at the moment. And then the next layer is, all the talk about buying gold, buying silver, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all the Nasara, Jasara, conspiracy theories, whatever that goes on, and what things are how they're going to evolve in the future. So yes, there's a lot going on. And as you guys well know, and a lot of people watching tonight as well will know, is that finances is connected to your sense of self and your sense of abundance and the love of self and your willingness to be present and to be, just to acceptance of the moment and being in that space and knowing that here's a biggie, everything's transient, everything changes. So don't get hooked into this moment. What we're feeling tonight, we're going to go to bed, we're going to do whatever, and tomorrow's going to be a totally different day. As the Buddha said, every day is a new opportunity to experience oneself in a new light. It's not a quote directly, but that one, if anyone knows that one, you can type it up. Or it's we begin a day every day. We're born again. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, darling. I appreciate it. Beck, what's been happening with you, my love?
Yeah, I've been I'm not really sure what to share with you all, but I have been focusing on leading by example on these public forums and replying to people, etc., when challenged, because what I've really noticed is this derogatory commenting on people's posts, or just really quite offensive and degrading language that people are using towards each other, even when they know each other. So from families right through to friends, right through to strangers. And how I've done a lot of watching and reading over the last couple of weeks particularly, but mainly this last year I've got much more involved in community forums and stuff. And I'm really quite taken aback at how people talk to one another. When you don't agree with someone, that's fine. But the way people talk to each other is quite disheartening. And so I've been trying to lead by example, basically trying to lift the vibration from throwing mud to inquiry and respectful, conscious communication. So it's not always easy, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but I really find it quite astounding at how people talk to one another. And that to me is like fueling this division and fueling this crazy positioning of I'm on this team and you're on that team. And, it's sort of like, I'm like, how about we're all on that same team? Really, it's quite bizarre that people do that. And I think what I then want to lead into quickly is I think all of this, these triggers that are coming up for people, these unresolved traumas. Zoe, you talk about it a lot, just that whole doing the work in your own backyard. We all do talk about this, but yeah, I really noticed that people are very quick to be pointing the finger, and yet they don't really have their own shit sorted, and I feel that sometimes this projection and this and we can all do it. I know we're only all learning, but I find some people are really coming from that place of attack and feeling threatened and fearful. A lot of the fear stuff is driving so much of this narrative and so much of these, this lack of impeccability with your word, this sense of not coming from your heart, really lashing out at people. So yeah, I've been really kind of, I don't know, I don't think you can really fix that, but you can certainly work on it on your own. And then hopefully, people
observing
people are throwing stuff at each other big time on this. I find it really like, wow, you sit behind a keyboard and you think you're really a nice person and that you're respectful. Like, whoa, like everything matters. Your whole way that you hold yourself matters. What you say, what you do. This is yoga. So it's like getting on platforms and then, ranting and having this entitled righteous rants at people. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
been an eye opener, that's for sure.
Sorry, Zoe, you go.
It's a survival mentality. It's like it's like if you were to walk into a shop and there'd be a few things on the shelf, rather than having a conversation with each other and then really seeing who really needs that. It'd be like this. So it's the old programs coming up for review, it's the manipulation, it's all the games. So it's really ugly. It is really ugly. So commending you for holding that space back, because it's not easy. It's a shitstorm, and it's easy to unplug from that. And I feel in that there is a place. What we really need to right now is about really being clear in boundaries and no, that's not okay, and then stepping away and maybe unplugging from that, because there's some space that's needed to have some time out.
Yeah, good points though, definitely. And it's like we're seeing the nastiest or the darkest aspects of humanity coming up for purging, which, or the next level of that, which is all part of the process. We know that, and it's not a fun space to be in witness. And during the week I made some comments about things that I'd received in a particular group, which I have now left on Facebook. And the thing that astounded me, that initiated my just taking myself off the group, was that I was talking about the big V, and sharing that. And I don't know what the exact statistics are. So I said 99%, which I know is probably a bit of exaggeration, but it's very close to that. The majority of parents, for example, who have vaccine injured children, or who are actually anti-vaxxers, have vaccinated their children before, and they've learned the hard way, and they're now living with these damaged children, which is horrendous. And people were laughing at that, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how anybody would laugh and dismiss. And there's like, oh, so you get your statistics wrong, and it's like, okay, well, I said, I probably a slight exaggeration on I didn't say I was quoting the exact statistic, but the majority of people who are now opposed to mandatory vaccinations most certainly are dealing with children that have been horrendously damaged. How on earth could anybody laugh at that? I was astounded at that. So again, the darkest aspects, which we all have within us. Yeah, we've all got the dark feminine, the Lilith energy in us, and the masculine as well. So it just makes me think of when you were saying that, Beck, too, not to laugh at it, of course, but to try and see the lightness in it, because that helps me at least. You all know the movie Madagascar, with the animated movie when they're in the zoo and whatever, and there's a scene with the monkeys in there where one of them there's two monkeys, and one of them, all the the proverbial's hitting the fan. I think the animals are escaping the zoo or trying to, and one of the monkeys turns to the other one and says, "If you have any poo, fling it now." It just makes me just crack up every time, because that's what monkeys do. Obviously, they just do in their hand. They just fling it. And that helps me just sort of go, okay, it's just what's happening in the moment, and I'll step out of it without adding fuel to the fire as well. Yeah, without flinging your own poo into the.
That can be our new hashtag, like when you want some support. Hey, fling some poo, sisters. Fling some poo.
If you have any poo,
do you have any poo? Do you have any poo? Fling. I need some support. Flinging poo time.
Oh,
like I said, it's all fear-based, and you know what it is? It's the miser, it's the greed, and it's the miser that's coming up. It's like something that teaches you about adversity. When you're like pull back, and we understand this from yoga, like you need to be unlayered and delayered till you're butt naked and raw, and you can't hide. When you're in that place and you're on your knees, pretty much, that's when you taste humility. That's when you truly taste you get past your ego, your egotic pride, and you really stand in your pride of who you are as an essence and a spiritual being. And even as I say that, it feels really emotional, because unless you go through that transition, people need to go through that transition to access the heart. They can't access the heart through so I get excited when people have adversity. I get excited when I have adversity, and because the richness and the impregnated wisdom that comes through from that, you can't buy.
Beautifully said. Jody, we'll move to you, darling, because I know you've had a big week. You've shared that on your pages as well. And you're in Melbs, so I've just seen through other people's posts that there's a new, LOCK down happening, and for how long?
Oh, is
That's
there?
apparently so, or there's one coming, or it's going to be a horrendous one. There's a lot of people freaking out about that. So
Oh,
how have you been moving
no,
the energies?
no surprise there, is there? I did say that it would be a dose of ping pong going on between us and, I thought, Perth for a little bit. So, okay, it's back to us again. All right. Look, I think that, I was kind of tracking really well this week, and I did a post about why am I always like so elevated and just rocking it during Mercury retrograde, and then I severely got slapped down the next day. Which I called in. I totally called it in, and I was sharing with the guys, but just for the audience, what happened was it came through in a sinus infection, and I haven't had that for so long, like so long. I thought that was, completely had traversed out of my body, and it just goes to show how these things can come back. And it was like I woke up with it, and I think also it was to do with we've had a massive drop in temperature in Melbourne. Like it's seriously like autumn weather now, and we're still meant to be in summer. So I thought that it was that massive drop down. But in going through that whole day and thinking, oh God, don't tell me I'm going to have to get antibiotics, or, I'm going to have to go down some sort of like, medicine path. But that was how I used to deal with it. But I was showing with the guys, just in sitting with that yesterday, and working on, okay, well, what's happened for this to come up, and identifying what had actually been presented to me as a trigger, where I really had to hold and stand in my own power, in the sense of calling, like I called someone out on something, and I had to hold onto it and not be dismissed, and not allow them to also get away with it. And in that, I just mean in the sense of like, we're all in this place at the moment where if you're getting called out on something and it's delivered with love, and it's for that thing of like, you have to see this for yourself, because this is a really great opportunity for you to grow and to be vulnerable. And it's okay. Like, I've been there, I've done that, myself. Like, I think we're all being called to do this in a way that we can help people transverse these things that are coming in for us, these triggers that are coming in for us, these situations. Like, this is how, as a tribe, we help each other along. So, and I think because that was, it brought up things for me that were bits of, still bits of old debris and things like that. But because I was able to, to work through that yesterday, I woke up this morning, it was completely gone. And so what I love in that is just that doesn't that really show that the consistent ritual work that we do all the time to be, shedding off and healing these patterns and the like, it means that the time frame when they do come in and hit is condensed down, because like we're able to like to shift and move that debris so much quicker out of our body. So it's been like, I'm cleansing at the moment. So I start the water component on Sunday, and I was even prepared to continue it even with the sinus, because I thought, oh, that's cool. I'll just go into a dry cleanse as well, which is where you don't even have water. I've done that for 3 days. And if you want a spiritual awakening, do a dry cleanse. It's like, all of that comes to this, all of the debris comes to the surface. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I'm still really vibed by how much is going to shift and really come alive this year. Whereas last year, I think it was just that paralyzed fear and that survival. I think that we can actually really shift this into a thriving year.
Yeah, definitely, darling. And I think we've all absorbed and processed enough of the shock, I suppose, as well, to be able to just go, okay, well, pick ourselves up off the ground, dust ourselves off and get back on the path. And of course, we're going to stray off that and we're going to fall over and all those things. But kudos to you most definitely, because sinusitis and sinus pain and all those things, I can relate to that as well. I used to have that years ago too, and fixed it, cured it, alleviated it with yoga. When we first started training back in Ki Yoga, it was the first time that I realized obviously the connection between the meridians and the mental self and the emotional body and all the stuff that you carry and those things. And as you said, Jode, and also Zoe as well, it's this fear that there's so many layers to fear, and everybody's fear is coming up and it's peaking and then it's subsiding, and the trick is seeing it in the moment, isn't it? And then not shying away from that, or seeing that and putting the blinkers, like tightening the blinkers or just ripping them all off, or just expanding them further. And that kind of leads me into what I was saying, you guys, I want to sort of touch on tonight a little bit, and love to hear from people's comments as well about the pineal gland. And Anya chakra, which we call it in yoga, of course, and the third eye, the inner vision. And we know that the pineal gland has been targeted for a long time through pollutants and chemtrails and food and GMOs and all sorts of things, electromagnetic frequencies, etc. And then all of our stuff that comes through, obviously genetically through our ancestral lines. So the pineal is not, my understanding of it, it's not just a space where we want to, through meditation practices and ceremonies or however you do that, to get to this beautiful peace, love and light, comfortable space, or where suddenly everything's really rosy and we're able to access all these downloads and we have these insights. That does happen, of course. Everything's duality, everything's like polarity, and we've got yin and yang. So it's like you're going to go into the pineal gland, you're going to go into that sacred space within yourself and open up the pathways of vision and remove the veils of illusion. Then we have to be in a space and willing to make that commitment to ourselves to look at everything, not just go, I'm just going to look at that bit and that bit and that bit and pretend that's not there or cover that up. We've got to go into the rawness and the realness and the bruisiness and the uncomfortability and the darkness and the depth of that. And to me, that's a big component of being a yogi, is to look at your stuff and own that. And that's the journey of obviously being taught or mentored or supported by whoever you end up choosing to do that, of helping you navigate those layers of yourself that need to be recognized and then dissolved and transformed, as you say, Jody, transmute and navigate that process within yourself. And we've been doing this work for a long time, so we're all pretty good at clearing our stuff faster. And of course the timelines are just all over the place, and it doesn't feel like there's any time or space and dimensions now anyway. So what used to take me, as I was saying to you guys before, 3 days, sometimes a couple of months, a couple of weeks or months to process within myself, I can now clear that within my body anywhere from 1 to 3 days, because I just surrender into the intensity of it and move it through. Whereas years ago I would fight and I would struggle and I would just like make more of it, and I would refuse to see things, and I hadn't dealt with enough of my shit, basically. I hadn't processed enough of my wounding before that. So who wants to speak about their interpretation and experience of the pineal gland, and how this is such an important gateway for helping, especially those on the yogic path, see through the illusions, see through the actual illusions and the veils of confusion, of conspiracy, of corruption, all those things that are happening in the world now. I believe it's got a lot to do with that. Who wants to kick that off? I'm going to pick one of you if you don't pop your hands up. I'm going to go to you, Zoe, again. You're unmuted.
I knew you were. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. Go for it, Dom.
What's my interpretation? I feel that the layers are there, and the veil or the not seeing is there to prevent people from waking up too fast. I do feel, and I do want to make that point, there is a chase enlightenment. There is a big rush with that in regards to something that, in a text the other day about people chasing to open up their pineal gland, opening up. I want to chase enlightenment. So then chasing different substances or things to activate, to assist to open. With anything, with opening anything up, it's really important to mention the importance of grounding and the rootedness, which is related to everything that we've been saying, what's been coming up from us from the roots. My interpretation, I've had different experiences with things opening. I find if I go looking, seeking, and looking for it, I have to, again, it's the doorway through the heart. You need to go in. You may have moments where you open up because you've had a substance or something to open up, and then you go back down again, thankfully, because we have gravity to keep working through the lower stuff. Otherwise, if you were to see the whole thing, people would have, that's why people have psychosis and mental psychosis, and they do end up in mental institutions because they suddenly see it all and then they don't know how to, it's conglomerated, so they don't know how to make sense of it. But do you feel things will open up in their own way? The pineal as well, you know, you've got the pituitary that's also involved in there. And I found in myself, if I'm focusing on the pituitary gland, I actually miss the point. I actually have to focus on the thymus, and then from the thymus, so thymus, upper heart. I have to connect to there and then go in with curiosity and like this playful exploration. So I'm not seeking it, I'm that, you know, it's returning to innocence. Then I'm directing my attention. Because I want to mention this because sometimes you can feel really lost. If you're not a natural seer, you may have natural gifts within you. You feel it, you sense it, like you may be more claircognizant. So you can see something and you can know something without actually seeing it. And if you're asked to describe it, you can describe it. That's me. So I couldn't see it. And then I have moments where all of a sudden, I'm like seeing it like I'm looking at you guys and I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. And then I'm like flying somewhere and I'm like gone. So, and I feel that's what it's, when we're chasing it, when we're looking for it, it'll be shut down. And it's really about returning to innocence. And it's assisting with getting rid of that veil of the distortions of our own separation, of that we think that we're the, you know, and that's getting past here, there, the I, right? This is me, me, it's my identity. So then we have to go through this process of then like, I need to start trusting and letting go of that. I'm going into the heart. Oh, and then I'm learning to have faith. Oh, I'm going into the throat. Oh, then you start going into a doorway. What is playing out there right now is an agenda that is going to potentially will shut down all the star systems within the body. So we're at this pivotal point right now of starting to really open up into that, into this magical realm, as it is magical. And then remember the whole oneness of all that we are, and seeing and having this beautiful appreciation for everyone that's out there as being this divine reflection and mirror, not competition.
Yeah, beautiful, Zoe. Beautifully. You always eloquent or articulate everything so visually and beautifully. Thank you, sweetheart. It's that's people that are watching might be just freaking out, and that's a scary place for them to be, and other ones will be going, yeah, I can relate to that, or wow, that's what I want to be able to access within myself. It's everybody can access that. It's like we can all do Reiki, we're all healers, you know, we've all got the same abilities. It's just a matter of, as you say before, you know, the differences in clairsentience and clairaudience, and we're all moving towards more telepathic, esoteric selves, aren't we, really, as we're shedding all the layers and the density that's connected to the 3D. So yeah, once, as we all know that saying, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And once you know something, like, oh, I can't unsee that. It's it can, from a humorous point of view, or also definitely from a sense of like, oh God, once I've seen that. And someone shared a video on the Activated Yogis page yesterday, and I just watched that today, and the woman was speaking about conspiracy theories and and how those who don't go down those rabbit holes, or don't look at things, or resist those looking and expanding their horizons and their views and their viewpoints about the things that are happening in the world. She's saying that that's actually a point of luxury. They're actually moving from a space of luxury, because once those of us who do choose to go and look in through those, or move through those gateways, as you say, Zoe, or go into those dark spaces within ourselves, and then that opens up into all sorts of crazy stuff. That takes courage, that's just, you can't unsee the stuff that you see in there. And as we all know, that, and I know I speak for you certainly as well, Beck, too, we've had many conversations about just how you feel, that like it can make you feel depressed. It can really mess with your head. It can really be a very visceral physical response that you have when you see these things and these horrors and these things connected to corruption, etc. in the world. And that's the point that, that I was making before, or trying to, probably not very well, about when we go into that space within, yes, not going in readying ourselves or anticipating that there's going to be crazy stuff. I mean, of course there will, but not going in with that intention to re-traumatize ourselves. But if we do meet it in whatever timing that we're meant to, then we just meet that, we be in the moment with that, and we allow ourselves to sit there on that edge again with it and process it. And that takes time. We're not going to do it all in one big hit, of course. And then we can move that to a space of peace and beauty and harmony and joy, and transmute constantly with that. So yeah, the seeing part and opening up all these gateways, as you say again beautifully, Zoe, it's all about being in that heart space and having that boundary within yourself as well, understanding that we all are addicted in some way to our trauma, and that we play and feed into that, and we're all guilty of that. Not that we have to be guilty of anything, but we've all done that, and many people are probably still doing that. But that is, I mean, we're only going to do those things and keep perpetuating those patterns and beliefs in ourselves until we reach the point when we're not going to do that anymore. When something just clicks for us and we suddenly go, we see, and then those blinkers open and something moves through and we go to that next level. Jode, what's your take on the pineal from your perspective? And because yours is about to just completely open up with your cleanse this week.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing with water cleanses, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like my yoga journey, I really don't think, in reflection now, I really don't think that true understanding of connection with the pineal gland happened until I had undertaken my first breathwork training. And that for me was that, like, the breathwork training for me really anchored what that opening felt like. And so for me, it wasn't the yoga trainings, it wasn't the practice of yoga, it wasn't, meditation. I resisted that for so long. But as soon as the breathwork came in, and that, like, breathwork's my go-to now in times of, like when something hits, that's what I go to. But this is the thing, it's all of these different modalities, isn't it, to finding the one that is right for us, that works for us individually. Just as Zoe said, like, it wasn't like, for her it was connection with one of the, did you say yeah,
yeah, go and open up the pineal gland. It was through here to here to here, and opening up. So it wasn't coming in from here, it was actually accessing to back of the neck, the God spot. And I actually found, sorry, I want to add this because I think people don't get told about this. I found a doorway, like accidentally stumbled, which then went, opened up. Wasn't the pineal gland, it was near the cerebellum. And it was a doorway that opened up. And then I've seen other things related to that now coming up. So we need to be the explorer. Don't just focus on one place, be the explorer beyond what is there.
Yeah, that's a very powerful chakra there, Zoe. And like all the, sorry, Jade, I'll go back to you in a second. With all the chakras, I mean, we work with the main 7, but this is a very, very powerful one. And of course, over years, with discovery, there's always going to be someone that suddenly goes, oh, I channeled this, and then we get more information that becomes the norm, and it gets written into all the books and taught, etc. That's a whole process of, obviously there's up to the 34 and beyond chakras. So that's a very, very powerful one. I discovered that a couple of years ago myself, and it's that just takes everything. It's, as you say, it's a gateway, it's a door, it's like the back door into everything.
Consciousness assists with clearing. So I use it with healings, and people will go with standing, and then they just drop on the floor, and then I can work on their body.
Yeah,
because it sort of resets the program.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think
Sorry,
it's
Jo.
actually called the gates of consciousness.
Yeah, that's in the Zentai. It was the gates of consciousness.
But I think what's coming, what people are understanding more, I believe, is that, the pineal gland has been calcified, and it's been calcified through the fluoride that we've had in the water, just on a basic level. But it's also, all the mercury levels in our foods, or the processed foods, or the ways that we're basically have been poisoned for, a couple of decades now. And this is one of the reasons why, that gut health, and going back to, where does mental illness start? It starts in the gut, How do we, start to clear out and get clarity through the illusions that we make up in our head all the time? How do we, tune into that third eye and really anchor that is through, well, we have to look at and take responsibility for, for the food that we're, nourishing ourselves with. And, how do we, how do we even speak to it? Like it's everything that we're doing is going to help to open up the access gateways for when we go into that thing and we sit and we channel and we meditate and we tune into ourselves. Yeah. So all of it, adds into it. And I think that on a conscious level, this is becoming more aware. And I think as people, this is why I don't mind, well, I do mind for the small businesses, but I don't mind us going into another lockup in Melbourne, because the more that this happens means the more that people will start to go, hang on a minute, there's something odd here. And if this is just them waking up to that, or waking up to the fact that they need to look at their water supply, they need to look at their food. Personally, I don't feel that there is a pandemic in the sense of like a virus. I think that there's a pandemic in the sense of obesity in our society. Like that's what I see as, the major thing. Like if we can have those small little shifts of people becoming more aware, then, that thing of like us being consciously connected through here to shift and change into the new earth that we are creating, and we are making small moves every week. It's just that we get impatient with the timeline, then
Yeah, no, totally. Beautifully said, Jodie, because there's a fine line, as you say, Zoe, as well, the pineal and pituitary. When I do my work with people, I always work with the two of them together as master glands. I mean, they're all interconnected, and we've all got our own techniques with that, but there's a very fine line between when you're opening up that gateway to greater knowing and seeing and visionary vibration, that how to manage that, if you're not grounded, as you said, and if you're not centered in yourself, and you're not purified as best as you can be. None of us are perfectly pure, of course, but if your systems are working harmoniously as they're designed to, then you'll be able to integrate that energy. But of course, this is just going way off, which we don't have to talk about tonight, but it just comes to mind when you say that before I throw to you, Beck, is that, and certainly from the spiritual shamanic perspective, like, is there even such a thing as schizophrenia, or is that just an energetic, you'll love this, is that just, the mind so enmeshed and polluted and full of ancestral blah blah blah. That's stuff that I've been looking at and researching and ping ponging in between over the years as well. And I've worked with people with, as you guys have too, I'm sure, with quite bad mental illness or mental challenges. And once you balance them, again, what we talked about the other week, everything happening out here and working its way through all the different layers of the body, you clear those traumas, those timelines, then you can reestablish a sense of clearer vision and being able to know the voices go, and all the the layers of their auric fields and their chakras and all the tears and the rips and the drainage points and the access hook points that things have been coming in to interfere with them and feed off them basically are gone, and therefore they can have this sense, this re-established sense of self. Totally different topic, a huge topic as well, and not to discredit any doctors or any psychiatrists or anything like that, but it is a really interesting discussion to open up into from the two perspectives of, the traditional medicine and shamanic alternative medicine. Anyway, my love, talk pineal to us.
Oh God, I don't know how much more I can add to that eclectic mix.
Well, you've got the Zen Tai
I think-
Shiatsu stuff. So what about from what you've learned with those teachings?
Well, yeah, not we didn't go too far into it as that, but we definitely worked on those points in the base of the skull, which we were just talking about, the gates of consciousness and jade pillow. I was just going to say, a lot of the Egyptian referencing to the pineal gland is very much on display in their hieroglyphics. So it's been something that we've had wisdom and teaching around for a long time. It's interesting that we talk about the calcification of it, because if this is the gateway this way to that Naskara, that world we don't see, how that's been a targeted gland in the body to put that veil over, so we can't see our full potential, or we can't see how we can work as a team and togetherness and oneness, and keeps us in that arena of all of this hedonistic stuff that we see in our world now, and all this me state that people are often in, and the place where they're operating in fear, which I always call is the contractive energy, is the energy of defensiveness, and the complete opposite to source energy, or unconditional love energy, or energy where we're more open-hearted and open-minded. I always say open-minded and point right to this point. We all kind of like straight here. Like, how do we find a place where there's more compassion and understanding, and a resonance where we're looking for solution-based alternatives to just the blinkered version that a lot of people find themselves in this 3D world, or in this world where the monetary system and this governmental system and this kind of systems that we've all just accepted for some bizarre reason. We've just, that's just what happens,
Yeah, and at the same time, we've got all this stuff that's so obviously, it's so blatant in our faces, and yet we can't see it. As far as the symbolism and the corruption and the satanic stuff and whatever, it's like, it's seriously right in front of our face. And now, even when we're seeing it on the news and in billboards and on posters and advertising and sneaking into laws, etc., in different ways, it's still right there, written in black and white on paper, and we still don't believe it. It's very, as we said before, it's a very dastardly, very clever, cunning, evil plan that has been executed. That leads us kind of into, sorry, do you want to say anything else there, Beck? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It'd be good just to share just quickly, if anyone wanted to know, because you guys are probably not more about, for those that are listening, how to clear the pineal gland and how to decalcify, and how to give people some tips if they don't know. Yep.
Well, I mean, I won't go into that now, because I've got a whole meditation and a whole practice that would just take too long to do that. And I work shamanically with that, with people, and I'm going to have that stuff up for purchase and also in webinars on my website too. But Zoe, do you want to share anything, or Jody, anything that you do?
I
That's
mean, I do stuff in people in healings, but you know, people that are tuning in right now that want some ways to start implementing. Empower yourself and your kids when you do have a temperature taken. Just show them to use their wrist rather than having the temperature probe. I mean, like, this is stuff that's been rolling out, but you know, you can easily just tell your kid not why, just like, hey, just do it like this, and they can get them to see it works exactly the same. And they say, hey, you actually have a place here, which then gets you to see beyond what you're being shown right now. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And that's all you need to say. I think I spoke about it in the live before. There's other clearing stuff I do, probably similar, like shamanic stuff, which I'm not going to share here. That's obviously in, you know, in that space where someone can be guided. Things like fluoride in water. If you're still drinking tap water, put some salt in the water. Bless your water. Even Wright put some. Emoto talks about the crystallines and the way that the vibration of water shake your water so you activate it before you drink it. Dark chocolate, that's a really good one. Dark chocolate is super, super good for decalcification of the pineal gland. Things like tapping, this is really good, like tapping. You can use crystals. Hang on a minute, what's that? What's the name of the crystal? I use a crystal on there. What is it? It's okay. I'm going to play a game here. You can tell me what the crystal is. It comes from the sky and it like lands like a comet in the earth, and then it's created into a crystal.
Moldavite.
Yes, Moldavite. So I put the Moldavite up here, and all I'll say is like clear, 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 open, open, open. Or I'll go clear, 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 awaken, 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 open, 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 clear, 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 awaken, 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 open, open, open. Do that for about a minute and do it over like 7 days to 20 days. You'll be surprised. You'll start to notice how indisciplined you are because you'll forget a day. If you forget a day, go back to day one. So in itself, that's going to be a good practice for you to start putting practices in.
Yeah.
Adding strawberries to the cacao because that increases vitamin C.
A frankincense oil is a good one too, just to
like we used to do that in yoga at the beginning, you know, like at the beginning of meditation, it's always like massage. I sometimes put tiger balm when I'm meditating. I'll put tiger balm here, and then I'll put some here. Period blood, you can put your period blood here. You can put them on different spots. There are lots of different things, as I say. Not that we don't want to share what we do, but as you say, Zoe, there's it's a process. And it won't serve anybody to do it short and quick here. Open up and then leaving it. It's like throwing out stuff and then people playing with that and then go, now what? So
it can cause more
safety and
definitely. But most certainly, and of course, minimizing your your use, turning off your phone at night, not sleeping with your computer and your phone in your room, minimizing all your EMFs in your house, those sorts of things, negating with shungite. Shungite's actually a nice one to put here as well, because the moldavite, as you know, is like, it's an extraterrestrial crystal. And every time and people who know that crystal, it looks like green glass. You've got to be careful that you actually get a genuine moldavite, because quite often they just sell pieces of green glass that that cost hundreds of dollars. A small piece like the size of your fingernail, that'll be a couple of $100s at least. So if you're paying a lot of money for a small piece, know that that's it's more likely to be genuine. That can really throw people out. I know when I hold mine, I just go off into some other space. So there's lots of different ways. And of course, food, I mean, water cleanse, Jode, or food. I mean, Beck's into her food with the seasonal yoga and things as far as clearing out. I mean, because we understand that the pineal is connected and the third eye is also connected to the liver channel, and clearing the liver, because that's the organ connected to vision predominantly. So working on the wood element in your body and softening ligaments and doing green juices and those sorts of things. What can you guys offer from that perspective?
Yeah, I think if we look at the classification and we look at the way that we've been programmed and we've been hidden from truth and all of that, and for us to really start to see And we've all gone through that experience. Like we can't, this is why that need to have compassion for people that aren't apparently seeing what the truth is out there. That will come, because we were all there at one point as well. But in terms of accessing that, like, you know, for me, yes, it's water, yes, it's food, yes, particular alkaline foods, like, you know, all your fruits, all the, you know, oranges and mango and avocados and all of that, like anything to keep the body alkaline and light, as opposed to the heavy foods of death, you know, like meat and processed foods and pastas and things like that. Like if we just try to look at, well, foods as a way of lightness to bring clarity to that third eye.
Can I just interrupt you, Jody? Just when you say that, a girlfriend said to me this week, she's detoxed from bread, and she said, I just had bread head all week. So bread is an absolute cracker for just messing up your brain and making you feel heavy, dense, and it might taste fantastic, but that's a good one for people to know too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only other thing I could add is, like with breath work, if just that centering thing of even just circular breath work of, you know, in and out, whether that's open mouth, closed mouth, it doesn't really matter, but just that focus of, you know, between your third eye, you know, back to your heart, and just asking, you setting the intention for it to open, like this thing of expectation that it must open, and why don't I have clarity, and why can't I, you know, channel, and why don't I get in downloads? It's like, just set the intention that clarity will happen, and you'll receive as soon as, you know, as we know, as soon as we let go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that connection as well.
Beautiful, honey. Thank you for sharing that. It's great advice. Beck, any final words? We're up to the hour. We'll just keep it short and sweet tonight. What would you
Any
like to
final
add?
words for the night?
Any final words, my love? I mean, we're going to talk about, and we can just mention it now before we start to wrap up, about you know, mentoring for yoga teacher trainers. So if anybody watching that has any questions about that or is interested in that, not saying that we're all offering that right now in that moment, it's not about us spruiking our businesses, but just having that conversation about what people feel that they may need, or what they want in regards to mentoring, spiritual mentoring, yoga mentoring as well. We can talk about that next week with a few other things. But yeah, it's just wrapping up with the pineal and the sense of vision and seeing, and 25 words or less.
Oh gosh, put me on the spot as you do.
After what you've seen this week,
Yeah.
what's your advice for people?
Yeah, well, a little bit like what Zoe said, like get back in your heart. And I've been thinking a lot about what the Bible even talks about, like just all those, the 10 commandments, just like treating people how you'd like to be treated, like far out. It's as simple and as juicy as it gets. Like, you know, when you're casting the first stone, like you're really got to be aware of where that's coming from. You know, what's unresolved in ourselves that we need to be validated through cruelty or through vilifying someone else, or
Bullying.
Denigrating someone else. Like it's a really good marker when you notice, if you go, oh, that was probably a little edgy what I said. Wonder where that's coming from, because it's a great way to put the mirror up and just work out what in ourselves in the backyard needs to be weeded out. So,
what do I need to see within myself? Beautiful, darling. And I literally wrote tonight for something else that I'm going to be doing. Be the person that you would admire. You know, you have those, exemplify or start to embody those qualities yourself that you would admire in somebody else, not to worship or put him on a pedestal, but just to, you know, constantly check in with your thoughts and your words and your deeds as well. It's beautifully said, Beck. Well done, darling. Anybody else got a final little mantra? Shall we chant? Because we're not allowed to. Let's just let it chant out.
God, yeah.
It's like having, it follows on from back. It's like being in integrity So I feel that sort of is that having the light shone upon all aspects of your life, the stuff that you can show up and show a certain thing, and it's a really beautiful practice to know that everything in your space is all a reflection. And I talk from myself from cleaning out my whole fucking cupboards, because I looked at them and I was like, oh my God, there's stuff living it. And I was like, and just that purification and that really clearing out every aspect of your space, because it's very easy to rock up and go, yeah, I'm doing my mind, body, and soul. I'm doing all that, and I'm creative and I'm messy. And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. What's in your closet? What's in your cupboards? Like, you really fully stepping up. And that's what I feel we've been given this beautiful opportunity for integrity, because then it's easy to do that when you're like shoveling or ignoring stuff in your own closet.
Yeah.
And when we start, really, it's it's a yogic practice. The more you do that, the more you start noticing it's not just this, it's actually every aspect of your life, your house. And we're really being invited to be kind and compassionate, firstly to ourselves, because it's easier sometimes to be kind and compassionate to others and then beat
the living daylights out of you and throw that poo at yourself.
no more poo.
No more poo.
Have a poo party where you sit in your own shit.
Yeah, that's enough of that. Perfect, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Joe, do you want to say anything else, or you're good to go?
No, good to go. But I read this out because it's about illusion, and I think a lot of the pineal gland and third eye, like illusion, like a lot of our negative thoughts, they're just really illusions, which is what this. But I was writing about this before we jumped on, so it's funny that you wanted to speak about this. But the negative that you're like being attached to is an illusion that is obviously a positive in your future if you're actually able to let go of the illusion.
Did you write that, or was that?
No, it's from Phil Good, but it's like I've been playing with that. With every negative that's come up, it's like, wow, you start to play with that and journal on that. When a negative comes in, it's like, it's serving a purpose for, like, you're calling it in. It's just that you've got to let go of that illusion.
Yeah. Can you read it one more time? We'll use that to finish. I think it's beautiful. He's awesome.
Yeah. The negative is you being attached to an illusion that is obviously a positive in your future if you let go of the illusion.
Yeah. Namaste.
Namaste.
All of that. Thank you, beauties. Thanks for once again for sharing your hearts and your souls. Love you all. Look forward to next week. You have a beautiful weekend. Go and nourish yourselves. Get those pineal glands out in the sunshine, into the dirt and whatever. And thank you everyone for watching. And we'll put this up on our pages and our bits and pieces so you can watch the recording as well. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful night.
Namaste.
Namaste.